Coming up on News 2, senators say there was a lack of communication from Governor Kenneth Mapp since he offered a compromise on the cabinet nominees' salaries. We'll have more from the Senate. Meanwhile, reaction from the governor during a late afternoon conference. DLCA received an investigative report from the Department of Labor regarding WAPA's propane project subcontractor and alleged violation of VI law. Plus, proceeds from a successful art show were used to purchase art supplies that were donated to 14 St. Croix schools to help their art programs. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Singh. Topping our newscast, the much-anticipated Thursday session of the Senate Committee of the Whole that was meant for a second look at the failed cabinet nominations ended swiftly. The Senate felt there was a lack of communication from Governor Kenneth Mapp since he offered a compromise on the cabinet nominees' salaries. News 2's April Knight has details from the Senate session.
It was easily one of the shortest Senate sessions in history. Within minutes, the 31st legislature adjourned a session to possibly reconsider 11 of Governor Mapp's cabinet nominees who are tied up amidst a pay increase issue. The Senate originally voted against the nominees on May 21st, and only a member of the prevailing side of that vote can move to reconsider the nominations. On Thursday, Senator Nellie O'Reilly moved to waive that rule.
I believe that we've expended taxpayer dollars coming out here this morning, and the people expected that there would be action taken, and I'd like for us to turn the page and move on.
But Senator Jeanette Millen-Young objected, promptly quashing O'Reilly's motion in the resulting vote. According to Millen-Young, nothing significant has happened since the initial vote to change the Senate's mind, even including the $105,000 salary cap that Mapp offered as a compromise.
I haven't seen anything since then. The governor has not spoken to us since then. And so what has changed since we took the vote? Some nominees would have still been enjoying raises.
That process took less than 5 minutes.
The nominees have about 180 days to serve, starting from the time they're designated by the governor. This means that Senate and Government House have to break this impasse by around July, which is when that time runs out.
Well, the governor still has the ability to appoint people in an acting capacity. Yeah, but we don't want that. We want some permanency, so we'll see what happens.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Well, Governor Mapp did indeed take that action. Instead of waiting until time runs out, he called a press conference merely hours after the Senate's decision not to reconsider and reappoint the 11 nominees in question. The governor stressed that the funds for the raises have always been in the budget approved by the legislature itself. He also addressed the continued reference to his State of the Territory statement that the government is on the brink of fiscal collapse as a reason not to give raises to cabinet nominees.
While on January 26, we said to you, the community, that we accepted a government teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, we did not go back to our agencies and twiddle our thumbs. We got together as a financial team, as an administration. We understood the priorities and the affect to the basic quality of life of our citizens, and we have taken action and are demonstrating our ability to meet the needs and the obligations to the people of this territory.
And more from Governor Mapp's previous press appearances this week. On Tuesday, the governor addressed the much disputed proposal of a merger that would place the Bureau of Information Technology, an agency created by law, under VINGN, a semi-autonomous entity created under the Public Finance Authority. The executive order was put on hold amidst protests by lawmakers, but the governor's recent speech indicated that it's imminent and should benefit law enforcement.
You will see an executive order come out where the Commissioner of Police will be one of 5 oversight members of a commission I am establishing under the executive order that will take on as a priority with the Bureau of Information Technology and Virgin Islands Next Generation Network the entire implementation and rollout of technology for police officers from the very business of their uniform, to their vehicles, to a complete system in the department, so that we can connect law enforcement with data.
A local contractor may be in trouble over their hiring practices. On Wednesday, licensing and consumer officials said a company hired by WAPA to work on its propane project may be in violation of local labor laws. But WAPA officials also issued a statement to clear up the misconceptions. News2's Erica Parsons has the story.
The Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs is questioning the hiring practices of a local contractor they're not naming right now. DLCA Commissioner Attorney Devin Carrington said his department received a report from the Department of Labor. That investigation revealed a contractor tied to WAPA and working on the propane project violated Title VII, Section 303B of the VI Code when they failed to post job vacancies.
As a result of failing to register those vacancies, jobs that could have been well filled by Virgin Islanders were filled by non-locals.
Commissioner Carrington in his statement said it was a subcontractor hired by WAPA who violated the law. WAPA's executive director Hugo Hodge said he was disappointed with how his agency was portrayed by DLCA. Hodge, in a statement issued Wednesday, said the authority has no subcontractors on the propane project. He said they do have a contract with Vitol to carry out the propane conversion. Vitol is required to comply with all local laws under that contract, and WAPA does not hire for Vitol. Hodge also said they were not given the final report for review or response. A source with the Labor Department said they could not comment because the case is ongoing. DCLA plans to take action against the contractor if the allegations are true.
Because this provision of the statute is under our jurisdiction to enforce, we have now began the process of putting together a complaint to be served on the entity that has allegedly violated that provision of law.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
Now, News 2 was unable to attain a copy of the Department of Labor's report. Labor Commissioner Catherine Hendry is out of the country, and calls to Assistant Commissioner Kendra Roach were not returned by News Time. Well, VI Water and Power Authority Executive Director Hugo Hodge Jr. was recently unanimously elected to serve as chairman of Caribbean Electric Utilities Service Corporation, or CARELECT, for the 2015-2016 term. At the organization's annual general membership meeting, board members were elected to replace those whose term had expired. When all business was completed, the AGM was adjourned to allow members of the governing board to convene a meeting for the purpose of electing officers. Hodge had been CARELECT's vice chair from 2013 to 2015. CARELECT is an association of electric utilities, suppliers, manufacturers, and other stakeholders operating within the electricity industry throughout the Caribbean. In other news, a federal grand jury on Tuesday returned a 4-count indictment against Nikolas Menya, 34 of St. Croix, charging him with 2 counts of production of child pornography, 1 count of receipt of child pornography, and 1 count of possession of child pornography. Menya was arrested on a criminal complaint on April 10, 2015, and has been detained pending trial. His arraignment is scheduled for June 4th. If convicted of production of child pornography, Menya faces a minimum sentence of 15 years in prison and a maximum sentence of 30 years plus a $250,000 fine. If convicted of possession, Menya faces a maximum sentence of 10 years along with the fine. Miguel Esperanza Vasquez, 59, was arrested after a federal grand jury returned a 5-count indictment on Tuesday, charging him with 2 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of blackmail, 1 count of obtaining money under false pretenses, and 1 count of extortion. After his arrest, Esperanza Vasquez was arraigned in district court before U.S. Magistrate Judge George Cannon. The indictment alleges that Esperanza Vasquez attempted to extort money from an undocumented immigrant while pretending to be a member of law enforcement. If convicted of wire fraud, Esperanza Vasquez faces a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine on each count. Jace Clendenin, 31 of St. Thomas, was sentenced to 22 months in prison and 3 years supervised release for firearm possession. He was convicted by the federal jury on February 9th, 2015. According to the evidence presented in court, on September 1st, 2014, VIPD officers were in the area of the Smith Bay ballpark during Labor Day Juve activities when they witnessed an ammunition magazine fall from a flatbed truck carrying a band. Officers ordered everyone off the truck. Clendenin jumped from the truck and rapidly walked away. Officers apprehended Clendenin and found a Fabrique Nationale firearm with an obliterated serial number in his possession. Well, Elvin Jacobs, 49, of 22 High Rise, was arrested and charged with grand larceny after he was positively identified via video surveillance cameras as the person who removed several mobile phones from the Choice supermarket without paying for them. On the date of April 6, 2015, bail was set at $35,000 by order of the court. Also on Wednesday, May 27, Adrian Aquino Sanchez, 25, of Hospital Ground, was arrested and charged with first-degree robbery, first-degree assault, and grand larceny after being positively identified by the victim as the individual who'd robbed him at gunpoint and was also in possession of the victim's belongings. Well, nearly 100 people turned out for a medical cannabis seminar in St. Croix Wednesday night. Senator Terrence Nelson and his staff organized the event that was held at the University of the Virgin Islands. Presenters included an attorney and a registered nurse, both from California. They talked about the laws surrounding cannabis across the nation and some of the health factors that should be considered when it comes to the medical marijuana industry. The forum was also video conferenced in St. Thomas. News2 will have more from that forum in Friday's newscast. Meanwhile, the U.S. Coast Guard recently announced the seizure of the cargo freighter Caribbean Soul during an at-sea interdiction off the coast of Haiti on May 13. It was carrying some 13,000 pounds of marijuana, also seized. 12 smugglers were taken into custody, including 6 Jamaicans, 5 Guyanese, and a Vincentian male. The wholesale value of the seized marijuana is estimated at $13 million. The operation was a joint effort of the Coast Guard, the Royal Netherlands Navy, and other U.S. law enforcement agencies. Turning our attention overseas, the Pentagon says there was never any risk to the public, but many are wondering how the military managed to send live anthrax spores to labs in 9 states and a U.S. military base in South Korea. Lab workers are being watched very closely for any signs of exposure. A live sample of the bacteria was shipped from a Utah Army base to a civilian lab in Maryland last week. An Army top general says the technical process of the killing of the anthrax may have failed, but so far no one has shown signs of illness. Keeping our eye on the economy, here's the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. As you can see, everything is down. The Dow 36, NASDAQ 8, S&P 2. Coming up on News2, 2 months ago, Art at Top Hat held a successful art show titled Art St. Croix. Proceeds from that show were used to purchase art supplies that were donated to 14 St. Croix schools to help their art programs. We'll be right back. Assistant Attorney General Denise Counts, the attorney assigned to the case of radio station owner Jonathan Cohen, has been reinstated. Counts was suspended on May 18th by then acting Attorney General Terry Griffiths for executing a plea deal with Cohen that counted only one of Cohen's 21 counts of failure to file income tax returns. According to Griffiths, the deal enacted under former Attorney General Vincent Frazier was not in the best interests of the Virgin Islands. Griffiths was dismissed by Governor Mapp earlier this week. Counts is now back on the job. The Committee on Government Services, Consumer and Veterans Affairs, chaired by Senator Justin Harrigan Sr., met Wednesday in the Fritz Loett's Legislative Conference Room, Frederiksted, St. Croix. The committee took testimony on 3 pieces of legislation. Bill number 31-0097, an act amending the Virgin Islands Code to provide that the 3-year probation against the leasing of medallions is not applicable to veterans. The sponsor of the bill, Chairman Senator Harrigan Sr., said that the current statute is unfair. He added that we should look at the purpose and benefit to the veterans when this prohibition is removed, he said it's better than having the medallion sit in for 3 years idling. According to the VI Department of Labor, the month of April 2015 unemployment rate slightly showed an increase of 11.9%. Signals indicate that there was minimum fluctuation in jobs being added in the field of education and health services, leisure and hospitality, professional and business services, and other services. Government and trade, transportation and utilities showed significant losses. Also factoring new jobs as well as changes in the seasonality of our job market, the St. Thomas St. John District unemployment rate slightly increased to 10.5%. St. Croix's unemployment rate increased by 0.2% from March to 13.6%. The VI Waste Management Authority advises motorists that a portion of the Melvin Evans Highway is now closed, and that was effective earlier today to allow for a sewer line repair project to be performed. The southern westbound lane on the Melvin Evans Highway from the intersection of the Diageo Rum Distillery to the intersection of East Airport Road will be closed. The 2,000-foot construction area along the shoulder of the roadway will be secured with barricades that will be lit at night. The work is expected to be completed by Thursday, June 4th. Well, in other news, territorial spelling bee champion Michaela Todman advanced to the third round of the National Script Spelling Bee Wednesday, but fell just before the semifinals round. She misspelled Torquemada. Senator Kenneth Gittens, who traveled to D.C. to support Todman, said she represented the VI well.
I think we as Virgin Islanders should be very proud of Michaela, and to the point where she got in the Scripps National Spelling Bee. She made it up to the third portion of it, which was just before the semifinals. But she was in good spirits, well uplifted, knowing that Virgin Islanders were well behind her. And again, we should all be proud of her.
Congratulations to Michaela. Well, 2 months ago, Art at Top Hat held a successful art show titled Art St. Croix. Proceeds from that show were used to purchase art supplies that were donated to 14 St. Croix schools to help out their art programs.
Every little bit helps with the art supplies, and I think we need to do a lot more to support the arts. We need to continue to foster an appreciation for art so that more students and adults will embrace it.
All schools need glue. All schools need construction paper. All schools need newsprint. All schools need paint.
We are delighted to have the art supplies go to the schools, and I think it would be a good idea to do this again.
A worthy donation there. Now, looking towards the weekend, VI Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Council, in collaboration with Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands, will be hosting their Let's Get Healthy St. Croix Health, Fitness, and Family Fun Day on Saturday, May 30th at the D.C. Canagator Ballpark and Multipurpose Center. That's from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, remember, May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and DVSAC recognizes that domestic violence has an impact on mental health and holistic wellness. There will be free blood pressure, cholesterol, glucose, HIV testing, health risk assessments, vision screenings, and much, much more. You can even expect some workout classes. There will also be a mental health documentary film showing and panel discussion, the film entitled Forgotten in Paradise, that focuses on mental illness in the Virgin Islands. Well, be sure to stick around. Your News2 AccuWeather forecast comes your way next.